Well, that was a fun night. It was the Globe and Mail Leaders Debate, but as you know, the Globe and Mail made the live stream available on YouTube to anybody, so we ran it on the Rebel's website. The reason I like that is it allowed our people to have a debate in the comments section that was a little bit different than you'd find, say, on the CBC. Anyways, I watched the debate, and I'd like to give you my thoughts, and I'll play a few quick clips. First of all, I thought the format was fine. I thought it was a lot better not having Elizabeth May there. She sort of plays the role of the court jester in other debates, interrupting, saying just wacko things. It was better to have the three serious candidates, each at about 30% in the polls. So I thought it made it a lot more manageable. I thought that the host, the MC, the moderator of the event, David Walmsley, he was an interesting character. I used to work with him 15 years ago at the National Post. But there were some weird flourishes, like he would editorialize in the middle of the debate. I remember there was one section where he commented his view on the NDP being centrist and the Liberals being left-wing. Remember this?
I think what we're seeing tonight is an extraordinary exchange of ideas between a now centrist NDP and a deficit-favouring Liberal Party.
There was another part where he put a series of premises or arguments to Stephen Harper, not truly questions, but put a series of facts to him that I don't think were accurate and that Stephen Harper rejected. It didn't feel very moderator-ish. Take a look.
Mr. Harper, you're going to need some new ideas. The reality is the oil patch resources in general are going to be a smaller part of the Canadian economy. And it is clear that under your watch, Canada is no longer an international champion on many different data points. We have record household debt. We have minimal growth. And in many cases, we have stagnant wages. Why do you deserve more time?
Well, let me be clear on that. Those things are just, David, I just don't accept what you just said.
But those are just quirks. Every one of these debates has their eccentricities. Remember, we're in a situation now where the consortium, that is CBC, CTV, and Global, no longer have a monopoly on debates, so you're going to have little wrinkles. I thought it was an enjoyable night and very peppy. Let me talk for a minute about the tone of the three leaders. Justin Trudeau was so yippy and yappy like a little puppy dog, interrupting so much, trying to show that he had energy and making up for any lack of knowledge with enthusiasm. Here, take a look at that.
Mr. Mulcair, cutting Medicare, you're raising the retirement age. You know that that's not true.
For both retirement and health care, and the public accounts.
Mr. Mulcair has talked about health care transfers, but he just stepped back.
Stephen Harper came across as fairly calm as well, but more like an economist who has a mastery of the files. Between Trudeau and Mulcair, it was sort of like the young bull and the old bull, and who would be more persuasive. I guess it depends what your style is. Let me talk about the substance, though. If I had to summarize the kind of arguments before, this debate, of course, was economically focused, I would say that Justin Trudeau sounded like, I don't know, a first-year college kid in debate club who learns a new word like infrastructure and then matches it with another infrastructure bank and says, that's a great idea. I like infrastructure banks. Or, yeah, we can lower taxes for 99% of people by raising it on the 1%. And sure, they won't just move their money offshore, and sure, the math will add out. It sounded like a young pup who's only started studying in the last few months and really doesn't have a lot of knowledge. As they say, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. He came across as a young pup, very eager and excited, but who really had a shallow grasp of things. And I think that's exactly what he is. Thomas Mulcair has said that he's been around in public life for decades, his whole life, his family's whole life has worked on the government teat. Here, just listen to that for 1 second.
I've always served the public. My wife, Catherine, is a psychologist who works in long-term care and palliative care. Our older son is a police officer for 17 years in the Quebec Provincial Police. Our youngest son is a college professor. We all serve the public.
Yeah, I mean, the man has never spent time in the private sector, and he's proud of that. And his arguments, whereas Justin Trudeau is sort of a yippy-yappy, new age economist, Thomas Piketty, fashionable, buzzword spewer, Thomas Mulcair is sort of more old school, just an old school socialist ideologue, sort of like what you see in Alberta. It doesn't work, but they don't care because they're just checking all the boxes they've always wanted to do. as a leftist. Let me just point out one more zinger. I guess Mulcair had another zinger I want to show you. Justin Trudeau talked about corporations not paying their fair share, or there's something like that. And listen to this zinger about Mulcair zinging Trudeau about his shell corporations. Take a look.
They deserve a tax break. That will help create new jobs. That's the way of the future. That's the NDP's
But you're
plan.
collecting
Mr. Trudeau,
$500 million
from
off
experience
of them.
about the shell company you set up for your speaking fees.
So I think Trudeau was sort of yapping on about fashionable ideas that didn't quite make sense, like convincing pension funds to invest in roads as if that would give a rate of return. Just a quick clip of that.
Not entirely. That's not at all true, David. We are actually proposing a new infrastructure bank that will help provinces and municipalities borrow at the advantageous rate that the federal government actually has. Yes, we are, as a separate initiative, looking to encourage pension funds to invest here in Canada, but in order to do that, we have to have a much more robust partner in the federal government.
Yeah, just counting on billions of dollars being invested in roads and bridges. How does that even work? What rate of return, unless you're talking about toll roads? He hasn't thought things through, but it makes him sound new age and modern, I guess. Thomas Mulcair sounding old school. Stephen Harper, I mean, I liked at the end where he talked about how for 7 years he's been governing in a series of crises, but that's what he does, and that's how Canada has survived. Here, take a look at him near the end of the debate.
Look, David, I have come to work now for 7 years in a row with nothing but economic crises around the world. You know, it's a banking crisis, then it's a sovereign debt crisis, a housing crisis. We now have market chaos in China. We have the falling commodity prices. We do have to do two things. We do have to respond to these crises, but we have to operate on a long-term plan.
The debate ended fairly abruptly. I thought it was sort of weird. The leaders did not have a final closing argument. It was unusual. But if I had to choose the one moment of the debate that summed up the unreality of it, it was the debate over oil sands and pipelines. As you know, both Justin Trudeau and Thomas Mulcair are against pipelines. They're both against the Northern Gateway Pipeline, a $6 or $7 billion infrastructure project that would create thousands of jobs building a pipeline to BC. They're both against the Energy East Pipeline, that's a $12 billion infrastructure project that would take oil to New Brunswick. I mean, together that's almost $20 billion of infrastructure that they're against, and yet they were arguing that Stephen Harper was the anti-oil one, and yet we all know they want to tax carbon. It's just a big mishmash, and there was this one line about how Harper hasn't built 1 mile of pipe. Take a look at that.
The problem is, Mr. Wamsley, under
you know,
Stephen Harper's stewardship, we have not built 1 kilometer of pipeline to Tidewater.
This from the parties that are against pipes. I just sensed, and I'll close with this, what I saw here was a grown-up, Stephen Harper, who you can like or you can hate, whatever. He is who he is. He's got his personality. He's got his flaws. But he knows the file. He knows how economics really works. He knows how taxes work. If you raise a tax rate, you might actually get less money out of it because you're killing the goose that lays the golden egg. I sense that you have one expert and two poseurs, one who doesn't care that he's an ideologue because he's an old school New Democrat, and one that wants to say every fashionable buzzword. I'm actually deeply afraid that if either Justin Trudeau or Thomas Mulcair become Prime Minister, they will do the kind of damage to the Canadian economy that Rachel Notley, the Alberta NDP Premier, is doing there. That's my summary for the debate tonight. If you joined us on our website for our debate and our comments throughout the night, thanks very much. And we'll keep in touch through the rest of the campaign. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.